If ProTools isn't already running, go ahead and launch it. I'll reach over to the side here and launch my ProTools 12. And while it's loading, I can tell you what this chapter is about. We're going to import an audio file, chop it up, rearrange it, and export it. It's a simple exercise, but it will train you for bigger things to follow, because a lot of what we do in ProTools revolves around those steps: importing, editing, mixing, and exporting. Along the way, we're going to learn about the basic windows in ProTools, learn some of the editing tools and editing modes, learn about setting up a session for the best workflow for this kind of job. We're now at the dashboard page. Let's look at this from the top. Some applications let you work inside the program without assigning a unique name to your project. ProTools wants you to name it and save it right off the bat. I can create a session from a template, and we'll explore the options for this in a later movie, including creating and saving your own templates. I can create a blank session. I can open a recent session, or I can open from disk and choose a session that isn't recent. So we'll go back to create. We'll call this clock, C-L-O-C-K, and we're not going to create it just yet. Let's skip over this window down to the bottom and look at some options for the settings for our session. So for file type, we have WAV and AIF to choose from. BWF WAV is a more complicated WAV file. Sounds the same, but it contains more metadata. So if your files are going to do some internet travel, like onto servers that might be Windows or Linux, I'd use this format. Avid also recommends that if you're working in surround, you should use WAV over AIF. Keep in mind that these are uncompressed file formats, unlike MP3, which is a very compressed file format. But when you're working in ProTools, you want uncompressed audio files. Underneath the file type are choices for bit depth, 16, 24, and 32-bit float. I'll choose 24-bit. We covered this earlier when we talked about digital audio. Bit depth controls the dynamic range of the audio files in our session. We talked about sample rates in an earlier movie, so I won't repeat all that here, but the rule of thumb is to choose the sample rate that gives you the best quality without overburdening you with file size. So for sample rates, we can choose 44.1, 48, and then double those two. I'll choose 48 for my project here. The I/O settings has to do with what hardware is connected to your ProTools system. Chances are in a project studio, in your own room, you're going to be connected to the same device day after day and week after week. So the most obvious choice here is last used. Where was I yesterday? Because ProTools is incentivizing us to work on the cloud and move around, chances are we'll encounter this more and have to make more choices. So they give us more choices here to work from. And I/O settings is a fairly big change in ProTools 12. So for now, let's just choose last used or the M box if that's a choice for you. Last thing on this page is the interleaved box. The interleaved box will stitch together the left and right channel of any stereo file so that you're not dealing with the left side and the right side as independent files. There are lots of advantages to treating a stereo file as one file versus two files, so most of the time you want to check this box. So we're ready to hit the Create button, and ProTools wants to know where to save the session. So I'm going to save it to the desktop, and now I see the basic editing window of ProTools. You may have a transport window showing. You may have a mix window showing. It may be a very big window, or it might just be a smaller window. For now, close those windows. This is the edit window inside of ProTools where we're going to work in the next movie. I'll see you there.